years old. He just paused, walked off the approach, and now he's ready. The left-hander, 6'2", 160 pounds. You know, as he told me in the interview that his knees were knocking or shaking, I don't think so.
Well, Chris, he's a very cool performer, and with a swing like that, he's never in great trouble. He might find a week where he can't get his timing right or he can't adjust to the angle for him on that condition. But when he finds that angle, he's never too far away from the pocket.
Bob Knipple, first stroke. It's the 410 for Bob Knipple of Long Beach, California.
Tough break for Bobby just starting out, especially with Dave with a strike up. So oftentimes when a player will get a split, and he's going to go for it boldly.
Capacity crowd here at the Bolero Lanes truly believed, with the ball 3/4 of the way there, that he was going to convert it. It's an open. Now over to lane 61, shooting in the second frame.
He's quickly down by 11. And as we mentioned, so often when you have an open, your opponent will come back with a double.
Came up just a little high, but still gets his strike. Bob Knipple, 24 years old, and so is his opponent, Dave Davis. Here's Dave Davis, the tournament leader. The leading money winner with $16,470 thus far this year, going for a double. Leaving the 6-pin on lane 62.
And that was it, Chris. He really wanted to get that double and get that jump. He reached out on that ball and gave it those extra fingers, which made the ball break a little sharper than he would like. Dave gets an awful lot of power in the shot, Chris, from that long arm and the free swing.
This is the boy that won the PBA National Championship in 1965. He's won at Salt Lake. He has 4 PBA championships, including back-to-back wins this year at Las Vegas and at Denver.
You see how carefully he sets himself.
Powerful. You're looking at Dave Davis, tall and lanky. Short and powerful is Bob Knipple, his opponent, as they go for the $10,000 first prize. Difference of 5, winning or losing. Difference of 11 pins at the moment. The 7-pin.
Oh, he wanted that double badly to get right back to even. Bobby, of course, not having won a tournament, would very much like to win this game and then automatically be qualified for the Firestone Tournament of Champions. So this game could be a $35,000 game.
Tournament champions will be televised, the finals, on April 1st, live and in color from Akron, Ohio. Next week, it'll be the Ebonite Open from Edison Lanes, then the Buffalo Open from Depew, New York, then the Tampa Bay Open from Tampa, the Mobile Open from that Alabama city.
And at Mobile, after the tournament, they're having a National Celebrity Pro-Am.
High again. It's the 6-pin for Bob Knipple. This is the final match. The first match, if you just joined us, was between Bill Tucker and Bud Horn, Tucker winning it. Tucker then moved in against Bob Knipple and was defeated. Knipple then moved up against the number 2 finisher, Dick Weber, beat him. Knipple has 2 games, 225 and 205. And now he's going against the tournament leader, Dave Davis. There you see Davis's lead. Davis was ninth last week in Toledo. And it's a double for Dave Davis of Phoenix, Arizona. Father of one. That was Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Davis has to be one of the most ardent rooters of a husband of any female I've ever seen. Oh, she's in there cheering every minute.
Right when he released the ball that time, she said, "Hurry." She didn't think the hook would get back.
The 1, 5, and the 8 remain standing. Correction, the 3, 5, and the 9. I'll get it right yet. The 1, 3, and 9. About that 20-20, Billy.
Well, Chris, when the left-hander comes in, automatically you've got to do a little transposing.
Yeah. Nevertheless, Dave Davis did cover those 3 pins, and he stays clean this final game with a spare in the 5th. Now it's Bob Knipple, who opened in the 1st and a strike, 2 spares, now shooting in the 5th. Big strike for Bob Knipple. "19 pins separating these 2 bowlers. Trailing is Bob Knipple. Yes, we're live from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
Got a lucky break there, Chris. Again, going too direct and a little slow on that lane. Breaks up that split. Very fortunate. Being behind, he could have gone back to 30 pins behind. It's getting late in the match, already into the 6th frame. Dave with a 19-pin lead. Reaches out strong. Too strong again, Chris. Got a lot of lift in it. Made the ball break way too sharp.
So things will tighten up here as a result of that 4-6. If we were in color, you could see a brilliant orange shirt. We're not in color, but we're sure live.
Goes for the 1. Cuts his margin to 6 pins.
This is the final match, worth $10,000 to the winner. The loser, $5,000.
Place is becoming very quiet. As we reach the final frames, you can hear a pin drop.
Leaving the 7 pin. ABC stop action of that last stroke by Dave Davis of Phoenix, Arizona.
Here you're going to see a lot of power. The ball comes sweeping into the pocket, but from that wide angle, the 4 pin does not come back off. It lays down and leaves a 7.
Dave Davis waited in the wings for the first 3 matches as a result of his having bowled 40 games better than any of all the professional competitors here in the Miller High Life Open. Finishing last night as the tournament leader with Weber 2nd, Knipple 3rd, Horn 4th, and Bill Tucker 5th. Knipple now has won 2 matches and is in the finals against Davis. The 7 pin for Bobby Knipple. Since Bobby is making his first extended tour of the PBA this year, since San Jose, Bill, I have noticed a great deal of confidence in him. He has gained a great deal in a few tournaments.
Chris, when you get up against the top players in the game for that much money and on network television, and you survive the pressure, you get great experience, and in the future weeks you benefit from that experience.
Which could go into the amateur ranks or the people that bowl for recreation or just fun. The more they bowl, the better they'll get.
That's right, Chris.
So get out there and bowl.
Not much trouble there, Chris. The 2-pin, those single pins, the boys don't miss too often.
Another spare for Bobby Knipple coming in the 8th frame. Dave Davis opened with a strike, then a spare, a double, a spare, an open, and a spare. And there you see his lead, ever so small when you consider the difference of winning or losing. $5,000 here. The 6th pin, Dave Davis.
Chris, evidently lane 62 finishes a little more for Dave from the opposite side because he shows a little fear of the hook on the ball when he releases it. That time he was showing some emotion that the ball might leave him another split. Left-handers have it pretty much their own way over on that left-hand side, Chris. Since there's very little play, they have to change their angles very little. On the right-hand side, the boys have to stay pretty much in that track, and since there's more play, the lane conditions vary more.
Billy, how many left-handers are there on the tour actively?
Well, we've got about 20 from week to week. We have about 8 or 9 regular touring left-handers now.
Dave Davis getting a strike in that 9th frame. And now Bob Knipple. He's off the bench. He'll be shooting in the 9th. This, the final match, and it's live from Wauwatosa, a suburb of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Late in the game, he's going to work again, Chris. Down by 7.
You'll recall that in his previous match against Dick Weber, he just bowled 3 strikes to end it all.
And he's finishing on the same lane in the 10th frame that he finished on against Weber.
Right.
Both have a strike in the 9th, 7 pins down.
The 2, the 4, and the 5 for Bob Knipple on lane 61.
Well, Chris, trust is a must or your game is a bust. And trust he did, but he didn't get the good fingers.
There you see the 2, 4, 5.
He really didn't want an open frame there. Now he still has a chance to win. If he counts well on this ball, then Dave Davis needs to mark in the 10th. There you see it. Bob Knipple down by 7.
Hyde leaving the 6th pin. And the people here in Wisconsin greatly appreciate Bob Knipple's efforts. A 185 here in the final game against Dave Davis.
Chris, Dave needs a mark.
He has not yet received the mark as we look at Mrs. Dave Davis.
Chris, it's the same spare that Knipple had. That's the 3, the 5, and the 6 for the left-hander, the 2, 4, 5 for the right-hander, and the same danger. If the ball hooks through there too much, he could leave the 5. But he didn't want to go through the nose, only needing a mark.
Dave Davis of Phoenix, Arizona. Little worried whether he would catch the 3, 5, and the 6, but needless to say, he did, and he marked in that 10th frame. Immediately following Pro Bowlers Tour, it'll be international surfing from Makaha Beach, international ski jumping from Garmisch, Germany, a special presentation to Joe Dye of the USGA by the New York Metropolitan Golf Players Association. Jim Ryan setting a new world's indoor record for the half mile and world speed skating. All this on Wide World of Sports, and all that in the final match. As you see, it's a 7-pin victory for Dave Davis. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's all over. Dave Davis has won his 3rd PBA championship this year, but not until he'd had a hard battle from this likable guy from Long Beach, California. And for losing Bobby, this is not a bad payday, $5,000. There it is.
Thank you, Chris. I want to say Dave Davis is one of the greatest bowlers that I've ever known. Thank you.
You're very gracious. Bobby Knipple of Long Beach, California. And now let's meet the Miller High Life Open winner, Dave Davis. Nice going. Mr. Charles Miller, the Chief Executive Officer of the Miller Brewing Company, is here with a lot in his hand. Mr. Miller?
Pleasure. Pleasure indeed, Dave. It's a great situation that we can give you this $10,000 in the champagne bucket from the champagne beer. It's cashable. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I'd just like to thank the Miller High Life Company and the people here at Bolero Lanes for sponsoring the tournament. Chris, it's a pleasure being here. Really.
Good luck, Dave, and congratulations. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. And here we'd like to thank our executive producer on Pro Bowlers Tour, Rune Arledge. Also, our thanks to the executive director of the Pro Bowlers Tour, Eddie Elias, and to the Bolero Lanes in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The prize monies were furnished by the PBA and the Miller Brewing Company and the Bowling Proprietors Association of Milwaukee. Our next stop on Pro Bowlers Tour is Edison, New Jersey, and ABC Sports will be bringing you the final rounds of another great PBA tournament, the Ebonite Open. That is 1 week from today. The executive producer of Pro Bowlers Tour is Rune Arledge. The Miller High Life Open was produced by Ned Steckel and directed by Mike Friedman. Associate Director Ed Nadell. Technical Director Walt Kubelis. Lighting Director Tony Azzolino. And now this is Chris Schenkel speaking, saying so.
And now for the big cash of all, $9,000 to Caldwell or Davis. And those are spectacular trousers, Carmen, something I would expect you to wear.
Oh, I think I'm a little past that stage. I'm a little too old for that. I wish I was young enough to wear trousers like that.
Paul is out of Tucson, Arizona, trying to win his first national title.
Paul has a tremendous concentration. You look at him, how he puts his ball in that hand, he gets his fingers set. Now, you see, here's a case where Dave Davis has a very strong impact. I would say as far as power is concerned, he throws one of the most powerful left-handed deliveries. Even the right-handed doesn't make any difference. His ball is a very powerful release, and That's why the other day when he was in 146, he came out here and he shot a 250-plus average to jump right up at the top. That's what makes these guys so great. They can be down low, but then they come right back and shoot those numbers at you.
Dave Davis cleans up with the spare in the fourth frame.
The hot lights, it's like a water puddle with sun. The water evaporates and the oil on the lanes evaporates, so you have a little more friction as each game progresses. And by the time Paul came on the lanes, he'd got to be hooking a lot more than the time he was practicing.
Who is there wearing the red scarf, applauding, sitting next to Mrs. Earl Anthony.
See, Brent, sometimes during a tournament now, the lanes are a lot slicker, and like I said earlier, the TV lanes could break down. Sometimes they try to oil them a little more so they don't break down, but in this particular case, it looks like the lanes have broken down quite a bit. Still a good surface out there, but the control was a little more difficult. Dave feels like he needs a re-rack, and he has to have the tournament director's approval, and they're looking at the pins now, and apparently the tournament director has approved it because they are giving him a re-rack now. What he feels is one of the pins was off spot a little too much, and it might affect his strike ball when he hits the pocket the way he would like to, and he won't carry a bit. The pins are off spot.
Kerry Golden went over and immediately made the decision.
Now, you notice the angle that Dave shoots his spare from. He's going to the extreme right because the pin's on the extreme left and across the lane. So now he had footwork trouble again.
Dave Davis looking down at the floor. Paul Caldwell shooting for his third straight strike, leading by 12 pins. And that's how Dave finds out what his opponent has done. He guesses, I think, Carmen.
Well,
There's no way he can tell.
No, I think he really doesn't care. He knows he has to bowl his game, and whatever the other guy's doing, I guess is not important to him. But some players like to look because sometimes when you get near the end of the game, you have to get a little count. Maybe you might play a shot a little differently.
Dave Davis will be coming up in the 7th frame. And when he does, he will be trailing by 10 pins. And you can bet he will look at the pins this time out here. I must say, Carmen, that the professional bowlers are probably as big a group of sports fans as I have ever encountered. They want to talk about baseball, basketball, football, everything.
Well, we have a lot of time between the blocks, and then we run back to that motel and want to watch that ball game or the football game or baseball. We're up with everything.
Davis. Got late luck over there on the left side.
You notice he went right through the middle of the pins, and he was very fortunate to come out with just a 2-pin spare.
$12-10 difference. Dave Davis, who is up, is trailing Paul Caldwell. The 8th frame.
Remember the last time he almost threw the ball in the gutter, so let's hope he gets... he's having trouble with that approach. He almost threw in the gutter again. That's going to go high.
And suddenly, the door is wide open.
I think he's going to go for it because this time he's got to gamble a little bit.
Which is what he did. And his first open frame here in the championship. Came right back in the 9th frame. For Dave Davis in the 9th frame of the championship.
And there's a 2-pin advantage over Dave Davis has over Paul Caldwell. And right now, those 2 pins are looking bigger and bigger because they're both working on a strike. In the event that Dave Davis strikes out, he will then shut out Paul Caldwell. So if he gets 3 strikes in the 10th frame or 2 strikes at 9 pins, it's all over. But if he gets 2 strikes at 8 pins, Paul Caldwell can strike out and tie him. And then again, we would have that roll-off. If he gets 2 strikes and 7 pins, Paul Caldwell could strike out and beat him by 1 pin.
And as you can see, Dave Davis is getting a re-rack again. Harry Golden out there authorizing it.
This is a very critical ball, right? You'd like to get that first one. You could make this split. This is not one of those impossible type splits. This one you want to hit the number 2 pin a little bit on the left side so that the ball deflects into the 7 pin. Just like this.
He did it.
Exactly right. Perfect. You notice that the ball hits the left side of the 2 pin, bounces over, and takes out the 7 pin.
There's his reaction to that shot.
Now, this is also a very important ball because if he gets a 9-pin count, he forces Paul Caldwell to throw a strike on the first ball. He knows he needs 9 or 9. Oh.
And got 8.
Well, now we're really set up for a possible tie. Because if Caldwell gets a spare at a strike, it's a tie ball game.
Davis settling for a 191.
Now you have to remember, Paul was on this wing frame before and got a big split. So he's thinking about, I don't want to be too slow. I want to get that ball a little bit light. I don't want to go high.
In the 10th frame.
He's still not out of it now. He's not out of it. It looked like he slipped. His whole body was sideways. He can still make a spare. He's got to make a spare now. He gets this off. All 10 pins. Well, he needs one more. He needs a strike. If he gets a strike, we're going to have a tie ball game for the national championship. Look at Paul Caldwell. We have a tie ball game. Come back to tie it up.
And now Davis and Caldwell will go back to the 9th frame. Davis and the 9th.
Well, Paul is looking at those pins again, and he feels like he would like to have the rack re-racked. I think the head pin has a tendency to get off the spot on that lane on both sides, and that's a very key pin to 1 and 3. and the 1 and 2 for lefties. So they're right now with all this tension. You don't want anything working against you. It's tough enough just to throw the ball good without having the pins off spot. See, that's the only thing in bowling you can't overcome. You can overcome the lane by changing angles or changing speeds, but if the pins are off spot, you can't overcome it.
Laying them out. Two in a row. There's the 9. Just as you set up, Carmen Salvino.
Oh, yes, definitely another possibility of a tie now. If Dave gets the first one, this is the key shot. Because if he doesn't strike here, it's all over. If he gets the first one and 9, we'll have another tie.
Strike.
He has to get a strike
To win the
to win the
championship.
championship. If he gets 8, he loses. 9, he can tie. A strike, a winner. Doesn't leave him much margin. He's stuck.
And 8.
He loses by 1 pin.
He has lost the title
By 1 pin.
to Paul Caldwell. An amazing conclusion to this national championship, and there is your new title holder. And who would have imagined it about 8 minutes ago when Paul Caldwell threw the gutter ball? Davis just rolls one down slowly and surely to end it. So it has ended here in Seattle. In overtime, Paul Caldwell by a single pin over Dave Davis is the new national champion.
Back in at the Riviera Lanes, and here's how the final rounds are set in today's competition. Marty Pirano and Dave Davis, our 4th and 5th ranked bowlers in the tournament thus far, will meet in the first game. Now, the winner of this match will attempt to bowl his way past Don Johnson in 3rd place, Dick Batista in 2nd place, and finally meet Johnny Petraglia for the $25,000 check. And here we go.
Great hit off the wall, Chris.
And the 1968 winner of the Tournament of Champions has opened up with a big strike. So way to go. Dave Davis, now 47 years old, from Syracuse, New York. Marty Pirano. Pirano, of course, Billy, will now have to cover a single pin in order to mark with a spare. It's the 5 pin right in the center of the lane. And the left-hander now, using 3/4 of the approach up to the line.
47 years old, Chris. It's been a grueling grind, but I'll tell you what, this guy is all heart.
And it's only his 3rd tournament on the television tour this year out of 13, and I'd have to say that he has plenty of athletic ability, as evidenced here the fact that he's here in the very first game of the finals.
There's his average, 205 for the week here.
And it's a big strike. Marty Pirano, 47, 5'6", 175 pounds, owner of a bowling lane in Syracuse. And he's bowling the very first game against Dave Davis, now bowling out of Miami, Florida. He opened with a strike, trying to double here. The 4-7, Dave Davis on the right lane. The pair here at the Riviera Lanes.
Same pair that they have played on. Remember, Don Johnson bowled 299 here for the finish last year. The highest game in the tournament this year has been a 290 by this man right here, Dave Davis. Spared in the first frame and 11 strikes. Not on this pair, though.
And it came up just enough from the left side to cover the 4-7. So we have an even first game after 2 frames, and it'll be Davis, who, incidentally, this week in the competition told me he lost 18 pounds. He is 6'2", so that means he's down to about 130 pounds. And Billy, that just shows how much pressure is on.
He was really working hard, too. Dave got here right quickly after New Orleans, and he bowled about 25 games a day. He didn't lose it just in the tournament. He bowled a lot of practice games, too, in the 3 days prior.
Plenty of mixing action. So it's a strike in the 3rd frame for Davis. Here it is again.
Chris, a lot of churning on that ball, and the pin's going to come back off the wall and get that mixer strike. And that's a sign that the ball is rolling, the revolution from him left to right.
Pareno. And there's a double for the 47-year-older. And he takes a 10-pen lead.
Chris, they can increase it to 20 with another strike. He's wheeling. Look at that power.
So with a 20-pen lead, it's Pareno in the lead. The action will continue live and in color on the Professional Bowlers Tour. Why am I having trouble here? Our ABC Series Professional Bowlers Tour, live and in color, final stop, all at the Tournament of Champions. Continuing now in the first game, Dave Davis trails by 20 with a strike up, shooting in the 4th. Leaving the 6 pen on the right lane.
Chris, one of the great stylists in the bowling game, Dave Davis, everything by the book. Full pendulum arm swing. You see from the fully extended arm there now the key leverage as he makes that knee bend. Look at this for reach, follow through, balance. Look at that foot. Doesn't move.
Cross lane now. He's sort of stuck at the line, and that's what he's checking.
Earlier we talked to Dave Davis, and he had this to say about his hook and his adjustments.
Well, this week, I started out playing fairly deep inside. The lanes were hooking earlier in the week, and as the tournament progressed, of course, there was a little buildup of oil. We had to move further outside. I had to extend my push oil a lot further to get the reach that I needed here. And it's been a little tough all week. The fellows that have made the show here have worked very hard for it. And I don't know, we're just very fortunate to be where we are, I guess, today.
Dave Davis, who on that last shot left the 4-7. Trailing by 22 pins. The winner of this game, of course, moves a step closer to the first prize money of $25,000. The winner's opponent will be Don Johnson, the defending champion. Tough break. Open frame, Dave Davis.
Stuck again, Chris. Stuck at that line, and then he didn't get his full lift. You see the ball sliding right at that point. It's not making its turn back from left to right, and so it doesn't come up enough.
Pareno now. That was even a high hit and a powerful strike, putting 4 in a row and increasing his lead to 43, Billy.
He's a real fighter, Chris. That's his trademark in this game. He only made the summer tour for years because he operates this bowling establishment. And whenever he came out, he always performed admirably.
Five in a row. 47-year-old Marty Pareno from Syracuse, New York. And that really applies the pressure to any opponent. This is Dave Davis now, up and trailing by 53 pins. An open frame in the 5th, now shooting in the 6th. .710. Really disastrous.
That's the most dreaded split, the big wide one. Now he puts it into motion, Chris, with that same full arm swing. Now right at this point of release, that's been Dave's problem all week, is getting too much hook on the ball. And there you see it, going right through the heart. That's what he was talking about by extending his push away, trying to get more speed.
So it's back-to-back open frames for Dave Davis here in Ohio. Tournament of Champions. Dave, 29, later this month. He has won 12 Professional Bowling Association championships. The most recent was in San Jose, California, last year. Ranks 3rd in the all-time earnings list. Striking in the 7th frame, but still trailing by 64 pins, as we'll be back with a balance of the first match between Dave Davis and Marty Pirano at the $100,000 Firestone Tournament of... Lots of beauty in this capacity crowd. Nearest to us, the stunning brunette is Mrs. Eddie Elias, and Sandy Rose is Davis's girlfriend. Meanwhile, the Pirano family cheering on their husband and father because he has strung them together to the point where he now leads by 74 pins in the very first game, Billy.
He's great for stringing, too, Chris. The other night, that sheer determination, he made the key double in the final frame to qualify for the match game finals. Great heart.
Nearly gets a little help. He had 6 strikes in a row. A little pressure off now. You can see him just sort of exhale and get a little bit more relaxed as he gets ready to continue here on a cross-lane shot for the 10-pin.
Dave Davis gesturing. He's not pleased in defeat, but he managed to smile and clowning like he'd had 6 or 7 blows to the midsection and there's no way he can come back.
It's a double for Davis, striking in the 7th and 8th, raising his eyebrows like now it would happen when it's too late.
Yes, it is. He can go out for a 216, and Marty just has to make a couple pins on his remaining shot because he's in the 240s right now. If he opened both frames, he'd still be in the 220s.
While Dave is bowling here in this very first game, getting his 3rd strike, 3rd coming in the 9th frame. These are the people and the way in which they finished in this Tournament of Champions. Dick Weber, 16th. Wayne Zahn, 15th. Kurt Schmidt, 14th. Billy Hardwick, 13th. In 12th, Tim Harahan. In 11th, Mike McGrath. And in 10th, Lou Scala. Jim Stepanich, 9th. 8th, Dave Suchar. 7th, Earl Anthony. And the alternate today, Mike Durbin, in the 6th position. And Billy, I ran them down audio-wise because occasionally we get letters from people who unfortunately do not have the eyesight. And I know audio is one way to help them know how they finished.
Yes, our writer from the East, Chuck Pisano, informed me today. He has a very close friend in there in New Jersey who watches the TV show and listens each week, and it's beautiful, a very warm feeling. Chris, earlier we talked to Marty Pirano, and he had this to say about his move and his adjustment.
Well, I bowled in 2 tournaments this winter, hoping to get in shape to make a good showing at the Firestone Tournament Champions. And I came into this tournament bowling fairly well, cashed in the Garden and cashed in Washington. And while qualifying, I sort of lost my stride, but going into the last game, I needed to get into the cut, which was, at the time, I was out by some 16 pins. In the last game, I moved outside, caught a key double in the 10th bounce, and made 24 out, and I've been throwing that same line ever since.
Marty Pirano, who has just shot a .268 in a victory over Dave Davis. Don't forget, ABC's Wide World of Sports follows international cliff diving, the downhill, and what excitement in that event that took place in Kitzbühel, Austria. And to add more excitement, listen to this. The International Drag Racing Championships from Pomona, California. That's all on ABC's Wide World of Sports today. Opening up in the third game on our live color telecast from New York City, McGrath. So the game is on. That was a strike on the left lane for McGrath.
He continues to love that left lane.
6 feet 2, 145 pounds. 30-year-old Dave Davis. Moves. The match is even after 8 frames. Billy does. Well, I think most everyone knows that man in the middle. Don Carter.
Four-time winner, we mentioned earlier, of this great championship, but voted the greatest bowler of all time also.
With a .221 average here at the Garden this week, Davis trying for a double. 7-pin. Dave Davis, who owns an even dozen titles, but none since 1971 when he won in San Jose, California. As we mentioned, Dave won the 1967 PBA National Championship, the first sporting event held here at the new Madison Square Garden. Boy, he almost fell over the foul line. Stuck at the line. A double for Mike McGrath at the very last second.
Great shot here of the hit. This is the love tap. The pin comes off the wall. The neck of the 4 taps the 7. That's a great little strike.
Only a bachelor would call that a love tap. Split screen now. Three in a row for Mike McGrath. Boy, and this is the granddaddy of the tournaments, the Bowling Proprietor Association of America's United States Open. The pressure's on Dave Davis, trailing by 20, shooting in the third frame. Billy, reminds me of when we're doing a golf telecast occasionally, our voices will carry onto the green when someone is putting, which needless to say, we don't want to have happen, but apparently we're so full of excitement and vim and vigor today that they're hearing our commentary, which is distracting.
It certainly is. This is a game where you must concentrate in total quiet. And we're very close to the player, too. I can understand where they would hear us.
The 7-pin.
Davis marking with a spare and continuing to trail by 20 pins. More in a minute. And at the bowling lanes in Madison Square Garden in New York. This is the third game, and at the moment, Mike McGrath is leading by 20 pins. He has 3 in a row, going for 4. There's 4. If you just joined us in the first game, Dick Ritker defeated Dick Weber, 218 to 214. And in the second game, Mike McGrath defeated Dick Ritker, 220 to 183. McGrath with a 30-pin lead. Now moving to the left lane.
His favorite lane.
Dave Davis never watches the action of the competitor. 5 in a row. 7 more and we'll give him $10,000 and a Lincoln Mercury Cougar. Leaving the 610 on the right lane. No, that seemed to break awfully sharp.
Yes, it did, Chris. Dave puts an awful lot of what we call fingers, probably more than anyone since the great left-hander of earlier days, Roy Lown. He can make it break very, very sharply in the last few feet, and it happened that time.
Disappointed bowler. Dave Davis trailing by 42.
Dave had a few problems, and I had a chance to talk to him.
Well, Billy, my shot's been a lot different than, say, Mike McGrath's or Earl Anthony's. Made the TV finals this week. I've had to move around on their repair, and I know Earl and Mike have stayed pretty much in the same area. Some lanes I've been in on the second arrow, some deeper, and other lanes I've been way out on the gutter. So it's just been a matter of moving around and finding the right shot for the right pair this week.
Right shot that time, and that's the problem, though, because he's got more hook than Mike McGrath or Earl Anthony.
I mentioned earlier that between them, the 5 bowlers that got into our finals today, there were a total of 58 titles. Needless to say, all 5 are eligible for the Firestone Tournament of Champions. 5 strikes in a row, going for the 6th.
The ball churning now. He's giving it the same room. Here, we'll take a look at it. Now look at that ball. It's really revolving, and watch the pin stance. Now before they overlap, and he didn't get the 10. That time the full weight of the rolling pin kicked out the 10.
That's a pretty sight, isn't it? 6 X's, 6 strikes. Right from the very beginning of this third game. Now on the left lane, will he get number 7? He is alive for a perfect game. Don't go away. Let's hear from one of our sponsors, without whom we couldn't be doing this telecast. Tangled with a tiger named Mike McGrath, who has 7 strikes in a row, so needless to say, Dave is trailing now by 60 pins, but he has a strike up. A double. Let's take a look at a profile view of this bowler.
One of the great formful players, like Dick Weber on the right. Watch this arm swing. From the shoulder, full extension. Look at that knee bend. Now look at that extension. But what you don't see is the power coming out of those fingers. Keep them firm. He's beautiful.